can I just find, in your view, Dan, what would be really bad in these results? What would be really bad results?
Well, I think it's if enough MPs began to be frightened that they were going to... It's a British different system. The only thing that concentrates British MPs' minds is the idea of losing their seat. Yeah. If they start to think,
well, they are frightened of
anything could happen.
They are weirdly, Andrew, the other thing to watch is actually not just the Labour share of the vote, which we know is going to be really, really bad.
Yeah.
It's the Tory share. Because the Gordon Brown excuse will be similar to the one Tony Blair used in 2004, where Labour did horribly badly. They got 23 points. Okay. But because UKIP took a big chunk of the vote, Michael Howard's Conservatives didn't do very well either, and Labour turned around and said this is an anti-politics vote, and it shows the Conservatives aren't that popular either. That's the excuse that's coming.
Going to help the economy?
That's a good question, actually.
How is
that
it?
Is a good
Why
question.
is this whole discussion relevant?
Having a general election would help the economy because no, seriously,
the markets have fallen.
No, because we need a new government of either party to start cutting public spending. Because otherwise we're not going to recover.
Well, let the public vote on that.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean,
he agrees with you because he thinks his side would win.
There's
no moral principle in this. If you think you're going to lose, you're against an election. If you think you're going to win, you're for one.
I'm just a broadcaster these days. I'm saying we do need an election because something would happen, which is a new government would take the action that's necessary.
Okay, well, let me ask Andrew Ronsley this. If next week or in the next 10 days or whenever, in the month of June, Labour begins a process of picking a new leader, Mr. Brown goes, and we have a new leader in place. Will there then have to be an election?
Well, no, constitutionally there doesn't have to be.
I understand that, but practically does there have to be?
There will be enormous public pressure for it, but this is another reason for Labour to have a pause, because I think at the moment Labour would get annihilated in the general election. It also actually would not necessarily be healthy to have a general election dominated by who bought the most plasma screens in the last 5 years, when it should really be about public services, foreign policy, economy. And I think, just for their own sake and the sake of the country, I mean, the Conservative Party have at one level been done a great boon in that there's been no pressure on them to tell us what they would actually do with power, but it might be quite a good idea just for them, so they don't end up in a chainsaw massacre 18 months into office, to actually tell us what they plan to do.
So let me explain to Jerry what could happen in this country. Gordon Brown became leader of the Labour Party without an election and then became Prime Minister without an election. It is perfectly possible, according to Andrew Ronsley, that Alan Johnson could become leader of the Labour Party without an election and Prime Minister without an election. Welcome to British democracy.
Yeah, but I think what you will see happening in today's world, which is larger than America, larger than Great Britain, in today's world of high technology, of interactive, where everyone all of a sudden knows everything that's happening before the nightfall, and everyone has a view, and everyone can express it. When you have any kind of a government that is not directly responsive to the public, you're going to pay a price. You're going to have a new prime minister, and big deal. If the people weren't involved in the choosing of your new prime minister, they're not going to care. He's going to have no leadership. No one's going to care what he says because, I didn't choose him. He's not my person. You know, whoever it is.
Isn't that right, Diane? That's the fundamental democratic deficit.
If we shift Gordon, we have to have an election in the autumn.
Oh, you agree with that?
Yeah, that's why he's not. That's one of the reasons he's not going.
And you agree with that, Mike?
I do.
That's why he won't go.
But I think events are moving very fast. I think Andrew is ill-advised to have a programme on Monday evening. It may be all over by then.
Bit late for that.
I think Diane
becomes a timely obituary.
I think
we win either way. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
He's already spent the fee.
He spent the fee, so he has to do the programme.
Diane is ill-advised to think she's going to spend the weekend talking to the Parliamentary Labour Party. This thing may be resolved in the next few hours, one way or the other.
Explain that.
Well, because if the cabinet members decide overnight or in the light of morning that they're not going to serve Gordon Brown, he won't be able to go on.
And if that happens and there is a vacancy...
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's what we call a very British coup.
It's a coup.
No tanks on the lawns.
The nicest, brightest people in the world. I'm not speaking about it. But a bunch of people said, I think this guy should go. What happened to the voters?
It's a coup. Exactly.
It's a coup.
As I said to you, Jerry, welcome to Britain. If there is a vacancy, are we right, the Westminster consensus, that it is Alan Johnson, and there may not even be an election again?
No.
Some people would like to arrange that, but I think There'll be others who say, actually, I fancy my chances. Harriet Harman might throw in, David Miliband, who knows?
What about Harriet Harman?
Actually, a very protracted
What
process
about
because they have a
Harriet
fairly
Harman?
cumbersome way of electing leaders. And Gordon Brown would be within his rights, as Margaret Thatcher did and John Major did, to say, I'm fighting on.
This idea you can wrap it up in 21 days is nonsense.
You really think that can
No,
happen?
that can't happen.
Your party's so inefficient, you can't pick a leader in 21 days.
No, we can't because of the electoral college and involving the unions. It would go on all through the summer. Everybody would
Diane's
stand.
trying to scare you.
All right. Jerry, you're here for the stage show for Chicago, and it's on for 6 weeks.
For Chicago.
And if,
Yes.
in the process of that... if
You should hear me sing.
I'm coming. If you spot a British Obama of any colour while you're here, will you let us know?
Absolutely.
Because I think we need help.
And so I'm announcing today my candidacy.
Born in Britain, he could do it, you know. Jerry Springer and Andrew Ronsley. Good luck with the documentary on Monday night. I'm going to be watching that down to the wire, I think. Now, you know...